So I've listed all of the products of 600, and I know that it has to, two numbers have to multiply to 600 but add to negative 70. So I started listing them and I noticed 10 and 60, if you make both of them negative, they multiply to positive 600 but add to negative 70. So my two factors are x minus 10 and x minus 60. So this is my factored form version of what I was trying to solve. So now, using the zero product property, what makes this bracket 0 and what makes this bracket 0? Well, what makes that bracket 0 is when x equals 10. So that's my first answer. What makes this bracket 0 is when x equals 60. That is my second answer. Now, do any of these answers not make sense? Well, both of them are positive, so you would assume that they both make sense. However, looking at the picture here, we are trying to figure out what the uniform width should be, what x should be, which is this little guy here. Now 10 makes sense because, of course, this could be 10 and this could be 10, and obviously this little part would be 40 then, right? 10 plus 40 plus 10, that's okay. Same with this could be 10, this could be 10, no problem there. So 10 is definitely one of my answers. The 60 though, if I take a look at that, this cannot be 60 because this entire length is 60. So if that's 60 and that's 60, that's already way too big, and this problem wouldn't make sense if the x was 60. So the x equals 60, that answer is actually inadmissible. So the only correct answer is x equals 10. Therefore, and you could write a sentence, the width of the or the lawn of uniform width should have a width of 10 meters. Okay, so x equals 10 meters is the only answer for this problem here. If I take a look at another problem, if I go to my review and I take a look at number 11, it says, what is the perimeter of a right triangle with legs 6 centimeters and 3 centimeters? So if I take a look at, again, what is the perimeter of a right triangle? So if I draw a right triangle, straight up and straight across, where they're 90 degrees, that's what right triangle means. It says that the legs of the right triangle are 6 centimeters and 3 centimeters. That means this leg is 3 centimeters and this leg is 6 centimeters. Okay? It doesn't give you the hypotenuse. Okay? So it wants to know what the perimeter is, but it also wants you to leave that in simplest form. So if I take a look at this, again, the only way to figure out what this value is, the hypotenuse, is using the Pythagorean theorem, because that's a 90-degree triangle. So that's c squared equals a squared plus b squared, which is something you knew back in grade 9. So if I continue this, this is c squared equals a, which is 3 squared, plus b, which is 6 squared. So c squared is equal to 9 plus 36. And so c squared is equal to 45. So that's what c squared is equal to, but what is c equal to? If I take the square root of both sides, of course, c is equal to root 45. Now, if I look at root 45, I can actually break that number down. It wants it in simplest form. It does not want a decimal answer. It wants the exact answer in simplest form. It did not ask us to round. So if I break this up, I can break up 45 into root 9 times root 5. Why would I break it up into these two numbers? Because I could take the square root of 9, and so this is just 3 root 5. And that is what my c value is equal to. Okay, so c is equal to 3 root 5. And then it asked me for perimeter. So we know that the perimeter is just going to be adding up all the sides there, so it's going to be 6 plus 3 is my other leg plus 3 root 5. And if I do this, 6 plus 3 plus 3 root 5, I can only add root 5s with other root 5s, but I can add whole numbers with other whole numbers. So 6 plus 3 is 9 plus 3 root 5. Please do not go and add the 9 plus 3 because that's a 9, a whole number. This is 3 root 5s, so you cannot add those things together. So this is the perimeter of that triangle. And I wrote it in simplest form, so it broke down the root 45. Okay, I'd like to move on to another problem here, question number 13 out of your review. So the population of a Canadian city is modeled by P of t equals 12t squared plus 800t plus 40,000, where t is the time in years, and it says when t equals 0, the year is 2007. So it's very important you understand that times 0, the year is 2007. What will the population be in the year 2020? So again, if I came up with a table of values and I have time and I have population as a function of time, it's very important you know that at time 0, what is the population? Well, this is in standard form, so you can actually answer that question. The population is 40,000. That is your C value. That's your initials. So 40,000 would be my C value. You have to remember, though, that the year is 2007. This is the year number, okay? Now, again, that's not what you plug into the equation. You plug in time equals 0 here, and you will get 40,000. You just have to remember that that's year 2007. Now, they want to know what the population is in the year 2020. So they're giving you the year number. Hopefully you do not plug in 2020. You are plugging in how many years 2020 is away from 2007. And that would be, if 2007 is time 0, the year 2020 would be time 13 years later. So what you're actually plugging in is population at time 13. So please plug that in and you'll get 12 times 13 all squared plus 800 times 13 plus 40,000. And I will let you do that on your own, but you make sure you do the 13 squared first and then add all those numbers together properly. And then it says, question B, in what year? So in what year is the population predicted to be 300,000? So what they're giving you here is the population is 300,000. So you know that your formula for figuring this out is 12t squared plus 800t plus 40,000, okay? And that's what population is equal to. Now, they're giving you the population. They're giving you the population. So if they're giving me the population, that's what I'm going to plug in for population. It's 300,000. So I'm going to plug in a 300,000 in here. Okay? And if I plug in the 300,000 there, then I'm just required to solve for this. So it's very straightforward solving for this, bringing everything to one side. So this will be 12t squared plus 800t plus 40,000. And then I bring the 300,000 to the other side, so it'll be minus 300,000. So this will give me 0 equals 12t squared plus 800t, and when I subtract these two things, it'll be minus 260,000. Okay? So basically what I'm trying to do is solve for this. Now whether you try to solve for that using factoring or solve for that using the quadratic formula, that's totally up to you. It doesn't matter how you go to solve for that as long as you solve for it. Again, if you can't factor, then you have to solve using the quadratic formula. But just remember what you're solving for here. You're solving for t. So when you solve this, you will get what t is equal to. You will not get the year. You will get the year from time 0. So if you get the year, for instance, 10 as your answer, well, that would mean 10 years later from 2007. Okay, so you have to make sure that after you figure out t, you add that to 2007 to figure out what year number that is. Okay, let's move along here. If we take a look at question number 15 out of your review, it says the height h at t of a projectile in meters can be modeled by the equation h at t equals all that, where t is the time in seconds after the projectile was released. Can the projectile ever reach a height of 9 meters? Explain. So will this ever hit a height of 9 meters? So they're giving me the height. So that's what I'm going to plug in here. I know height as a function of time is equal to 14t minus 5t squared. It's telling me that will it reach a height of 9? So if I plug in a 9 here, basically, how would you solve this? You would solve this by bringing everything to one side, equals 0. I'll write it in correct order. 5t squared plus 14t minus 9 when I bring that over. So it didn't ask us to actually solve. It asked us, will